I am born again by grace and grace alone.
Hello, this is Troy with Aletheia Ministries, and I just wanted to make a video here and deal with a common objections that Christians will get when they're ministering to Muslims. So often Muslims who are educated and have some knowledge of the reality that in the both Old and New Testament manuscripts of the Bible, there are what's called textual variants. And what textual variances are is it's simply that with texts that were handwritten in the ancient world, and really manuscripts all the way up until the photocopier in 1949, these texts inevitably have some scribal variances within them. And so the reality is this. Yes, the Old and New Testament manuscripts have thousands of textual variances. But whenever we examine them, what we find is that they pertain merely to scribal errors like punctuation marks. Now, some of the most significant variances would be, and if you're talking with a knowledgeable Muslim apologist, what they will often bring up are two variances in the New Testament. One of them that is called the Comma Johanneum, and this is found in the letter of 1 John. And the second one would be what's called the longer ending of Mark. Now, these two are the most significant textual variances. Now, what is often misleading is a Muslim apologist will argue that because these variances are known to be additions to what is the inspired text of the New Testament, what they will often argue is that, well, because John, for example, or Mark did not write those particular words in the original text, that the manuscripts are therefore forged because they contain forgeries. And so what they're doing here is they're confusing the idea of a forgery, where a person is intentionally adding to a manuscript that was written by another person and adding an idea, adding something with the intent to deceive and mislead, adding information that is contrary to what the original author wrote. They're confusing that idea of forgery with the simple fact of textual variances. Okay, now what I'm going to deal with in this video is that the Quran, the text of the Quran, contrary to popular belief, it has not been preserved in a perfect way. Okay, the Quran, just like every other document from antiquity, was copied and recopied and recopied and recopied by people, by fallible people. And so, whereas often Muslims will do what's called special pleading, they will apply a different standard of criticism to the manuscripts of the New Testament, but then apply a different standard to their own text and claim something that's not true, that their text is without variances at all. I'm going to show you that there actually are variances within the Quran. So, for example, we do not have one manuscript of the Quran. Okay, the Quran, actually, according to Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 6, sections 509 and 510, we have a narration there that Abu Bakr, he went out and he was set out to do something that had not yet been done in the lifetime of the Prophet Muhammad. And that was to compile all of the information of the Quran into one text. Okay, so this is not something that was done in Muhammad's lifetime. This was something that was done nearly 18 years after his death. And so Abu Bakr went out and did this, and what then later happened was Uthman, he gathered, and he wanted to make one text of the Quran. So he gathered manuscripts, as many as he could, and he made his own compilation, and then he had the rest burned. Okay, now the earliest that one can possibly go back and in terms of knowing what the original text of the Quran said is back to this one person who had all of the control of all of the data from the Quran, and that was Uthman. Now you don't have that with the Christian scriptures because you have what's called an uncontrolled transmission, meaning that with the Christian letters and manuscripts and content, there was never at any point of time that one man had control over all of the scriptures, and so it was uncontrolled, meaning it was spread by lay people, by average Christians who wanted to spread the gospel of their scriptures to other people. And so they were hand copying their scriptures, and it was never controlled. There was never an Uthman. And so what we see is that it is a free transmission. And so what we have because of that is we have a lot of textual variances with that. However, none of those variances would compromise essential theology at all, or would change the overall meaning of the text, and especially would not compromise the gospel message of the Bible as a whole. Whereas on the side of the transmission of the Quran, you have to ask yourself, did Uthman get it right? And how do you know that Uthman got it right and compiled all of the manuscripts and got all of the information right to preserve the text of the Quran for us? It's a very difficult question for a Muslim to answer. Now, in the Quran, from the time of Uthman, the text of the Quran was copied via handwriting. And so what we have is various manuscripts. For example, we have the Birmingham fragments, which are dated to be very early to the time of Muhammad. We have the Tübingen Codex. We have the Topkapi codexes. We have the text that some people believe was from the time of Uthman, although scholars will disagree on that. We have what's called the Blue Quran. Okay, so we have many different manuscripts of the Quran, and because they are hand copied, they contain some variances. Okay, now I'm going to give you a few examples. Okay, in some manuscripts, in Surah 3:158, there is a difference that actually changes the meaning of the text, and I'll fine tune what this is. In one manuscript, the idea is the text saying that the person will undoubtedly be gathered, okay? Whereas another manuscript would write that you shall not be gathered, okay? So which variant is the true Quran, okay? Which one did Uthman compile? Which one did Muhammad write down? Another example would be in Surah 17:93, where there is a difference of the phrase of house of ornament, versus in other manuscripts there is the phrase house of gold. Again, which one is it? And if the Quran is, according to Muslim apologists, if there's one Quran, then why is there these variances? Another example would be in Surah 2:22, where there's actually a number of different readings between the Fogg's palimpsest, which is Ibn Mas'ud's reading, versus the Uthmanic reading. Okay, and then there's even a difference between those two readings in those manuscripts between the Sana'a palimpsest. Okay, so again, if the Quran has been perfectly preserved and transmitted, why are there variances? Okay, now a last one that should be very concerning is it's not a mere textual variance, but it's actually evidence of an alteration where someone has gone back in a manuscript and has tried to rewrite a phrase. In Surah 4:12, we have ultraviolet photography that shows the rewriting of the word kalala. Okay, now this word was a word that was related to the family ties to the person of Muhammad, which in the early days of Islam was very important regarding the different sects that would arise out of that. Okay, so again, Muslims must answer these questions. That your text has been transmitted in a way that is controlled, meaning one man got all of the manuscripts together and made his own compilation and burned the rest. You cannot get back to what Muhammad wrote. The earliest you get back to is Uthman. And since Uthman had all of the control, did he get it right? And how do you know that he got it right? Secondly, contrary to what Muslims will often say, that there is one Quran, can you please answer why there is multiple manuscripts with these textual variances? And thirdly, I would ask you that, are you being consistent whenever you challenge Christians and press them on their variances within their text, within their manuscripts, and you try to magnify them? Are you being consistent when you do that with the Christian scriptures, but yet when you do not do that with your own text and manuscripts? Thank you for watching.